right, guys, so we are here. It is Sunday, the 14th, and on Friday, what day was it? I'm already messed up on days. The 12th, we got some pretty big news that Gina Carano was no longer employed, carefully worded by Lucasfilm. And, of course, myself and Udi, who's here with me. What's up, Udi?
Hey, Joe, what's up?
Not too much. Who, if you follow us on our podcast and our socials, you know that we are big supporters of Gina Carano. So, of course, this hit home. So, it was something that we really wanted to talk about. Now we feel really strongly about. And, of course, I wanted to add another opinion. So, I've been following Madison on socials for a while now. YouTuber, podcaster, and a really good artist, a great artist. I apologize. So, Madison, thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, yeah, we're really happy to have you here.
Thank you.
Yeah, and like I said, and you put out a very, very good, brilliant episode, which sadly is your last, but we totally understand. But you said you hit everything. You hit the nail on the head. Mm-hmm. I mean, everything perfectly. So before we kind of get into the big conversation, because we got a couple points we want to bring up, and but can you tell us about a little bit about you, your history, just Star Wars fandom, and what got you into being a fan of Gina in the first place?
Yeah, so I'm actually a lifelong Star Wars fan. There's never been a time where I don't remember being into Star Wars. I had an older brother who was really into it growing up, so when I was growing up, it was just always there. The movies were in the house, the video games, the books, everything was in the house. So I just kind of followed in his footsteps, if you will, and became an uber Star Wars fan kind of from the beginning.
Brilliant.
And I've just always followed it. Like, I grew up watching, the OT because that was around. And when I was growing up, the prequels were coming out. So that was kind of my thing that I got really into. Obviously, kept watching through the sequels, and the sequel trilogy was what made me get involved in online fandom, because up until that point I had kind of just enjoyed it kind of in real life with people I knew in person. And so when the sequels came out, The Force Awakens, that was when I started kind of joining the online Star Wars community for the first time.
Mm-hmm. Very, very cool. And same. I think we're probably a little bit older here.
Yeah.
But we're exact same story. For myself, I'll let Udi talk in a second. But as long as I can remember, I remember the first time watching A New Hope when it debuted on HBO. And I mean, I remember to this day, I've said it on my show before, but we had Chinese food for dinner. It was on HBO. I was in front of the TV, and I was instantly a Star Wars fan. And throughout the years, I never grew out of it. I never, okay, that's what I liked when I was a kid. No, I was always a big Star Wars fan, and through the dark times of the 80s and early 90s.
Yeah.
And remember seeing Return of the Jedi for the first time at the theater. And Udi has a similar story, too. So
Yeah. The earliest movie-going experience I have is going to go see Return of the Jedi with my brother, sister, and my dad took us all. And I don't remember going to the theater before then. So at that moment, that movie kind of got ingrained in my brain, and I gravitated like crazy. So of course, not knowing the movies before and only having a vague recollection of them, I go back and I began, original trilogy, chapter 4, 5, and 6, and that became my mainstay. And when I moved from Southern California up to Northern California, where I am now, I had no friends, nothing around me except one VHS tape with all 3 movies on one tape. And every Sunday morning, I would be up around 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. I would go downstairs and put it in. And almost every weekend, I basically watched a trilogy. So that was my kind of my gap until I began making more friends, but that filled a big hole that I didn't have. And then from there, and then prequels, going with friends of mine, and then going and getting a special advance screening ticket for New Hope when they redid it. I was sitting behind up in the Sacramento area. My brother and I were sitting behind all of the press as they were doing the initial release. I got that, and I remember that till this day, how excited I was when I got in the mail, running around going, oh my God, what do I have in my hand? And so all these things have built through, and yeah, I mean, Star Wars has always been and will always be a part of my life, but what we're going through now is like tugging really hard at my joy of it, and so that's why another reason why we want to talk. But like before we get to the the elephant in the room, I guess, we were all introduced on a nice Tuesday evening a year ago to The Mandalorian finally premiered. We're all excited, and it beat expectations of what a lot of us were expecting. I was in one of the bonus extended rooms at Celebration when we saw the trailer and everything, and I've been a big fan of pretty much all the actors for a while, and probably the longest, of course, was Carl Weathers, but I've also been a big fan of Gina Carano since the reboot of American Gladiators and her pioneering days to MMA. So seeing her show up and actually you could tell she was nervous just because you know the fandom, but then how welcoming everybody was to her. But that's kind of like the short story of how I became a fan. When did you first become a fan of hers?
I actually had not even heard of Gina until The Mandalorian. That was how I first heard of her, and I was like, "Ooh, an MMA fighter! This is cool! Like, I can't wait to see what she brings to the table." So, yeah, Star Wars was how I found out about her.
Very cool, and a lot of people, as we could tell, because obviously she got nothing but praise after season 1. So,
oh yeah.
And I guess before we get to the big discussion, when did you kind of become a fan?
Gina Carano would have been more MMA, and then Haywire would have been the one where I remember her, and I remember thinking, not the best actress, but man, she can fight, and I have watched her from then and developed her skill as an actor, and then having her come up when they said she was coming on The Mandalorian, I was excited because I'm like, oh, that probably means she's going to be a strong, tough, fighting individual woman, and that is going to be great if they do what I was hoping would have her paired off against The Mandalorian. That's kind of what they did, and it made me happy to see her, and then for me, the embodiment of Cara Dune, that's her. I mean, Favreau basically wrote it for her, and that played out, and she did amazing. And I don't want to go into it yet, but yeah, she did amazing. Yeah.
So I guess we'll just get into it now. The hate mob started. What was it? About late spring, early summer. And I mean, you were following along with it because, I mean, kind of run us through, kind of where.
Well, Madison.
Oh, sure.
Okay, why don't we go to Madison? I'm curious because you in your latest podcast, or final one, sadly, you kind of described what you went through, and I have gotten very, very little of that through my social media, but you didn't really go too much in that podcast, and you basically kind of said you've gotten flack for what you believe and how you believe. So what came at you from people who were, detractors of Gina, and because of your support for her?
So it kind of started quietly, I guess, because there was some stuff that happened behind the scenes, but I know a lot of different Star Wars podcasters, and I was, Twitter friends with a lot of them, mutuals, if you will. Mm-hmm. We talked a good bit, interacted a lot. I had been on different podcasts. I had collaborated with a lot of different people. And then it was, I don't even remember exactly when it was, Gina started tweeting about politics a little bit and kind of making her views more known. And I saw some people starting to talk about her and how they were starting to kind of withdraw their support for her, if you will. Because what's funny is Gina was such a big hit after season 1. Like, everybody loved her. Everybody was raving about how much they loved Cara Dune, how much they wanted to interview her. She's so amazing, all this kind of stuff. And it's amazing how quickly it turned around and how quickly it changed once they started to get an idea that she didn't believe the way they did or think exactly the way they did. She didn't fit in their little mold. And so I never commented on it. You know, people are allowed to have whatever opinions they want. I never really engaged with it, but I never denounced her, and I never did what they were doing. I kept liking her tweets as I saw fit, and they noticed, apparently. They did not like my silence, and they noticed it. And I found out later that they had been discussing it.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was actually right at the time of the election, so it wasn't until November that I actually got canceled on Twitter.
Jeez.
Someone pulled out a tweet from 2016, actually, where I had voiced support for then President Trump.
Right.
And they posted that, they screenshotted it and spread it everywhere. And it was actually, I think it was November 4th. So I think it was like the day after the election, whatever, I can't remember. But, yeah, that was like mass pile on.
Wow.
DMs out of control. Like, the hate was just something I had never experienced online before. And what's funny though, is like, I knew it was coming for a while. I was like, eventually they're going to know that I don't think the way they do, and I know how unacceptable that is to this crowd of the Star Wars fandom.
Right.
So yeah, collaborations were ended, and I was kind of ostracized from the community I had become a part of. So I kind of had to rebuild from scratch, actually. I lost hundreds of followers, and I'm proud to say I've rebuilt past where I was then. So
good.
I feel like the quality of my followers has increased
Yeah.
since then.
Yeah.
No, it's so sad because I remember, like, when the first time she actually just, you know what, I'm tired. You know, you hear the term poking the bear, and the whole thing. Like, I didn't really know it was such a big deal about pronouns. I didn't think it was that. I didn't even really, not to sound uneducated, but I didn't really know what a pronoun was, to be truthful. But Udi was showing me the tweets, and because, you know, months before, he's like, I think she might be a little undercover, or what'd you say?
Undercover red pill is what I said, because red pill being the vernacular for, you know, conservative or whatever, that is what has been rolling around. And I said, I think she might be an undercover red pill because she's being very forthright.
Sorry.
Very forthright in her thought process, but it wasn't anything ever directly saying, I believe in that political faction or that political faction. It was more like,
exactly,
think for yourself. Be yourself. Be careful of that. Be careful of that. Be a free spirit. And I got into a debate on my personal Instagram with a person who was very, very critical of her, and I kind of went back and forth with her, going, "You're assuming a lot of her because she said beep bop boop," and I go, "Clearly, if you're paying attention, that was a joke." And even though, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure she went back after talking to Pedro Pascal and said, "Hey, what is the big deal with pronouns?" And she went, "Oh, didn't know," and took that off. And kind of like, okay, I get it. And I had that conversation over Instagram going back and forth, and I kind of went, look, why are we arguing about a character and a person? We should be talking about the character and what it does for the show and what we're looking forward to. But no, you're bringing in this outside thing which you're assuming a ton about this person. I go, so why don't we take an example from Pedro and Gina and talk about it, and then maybe come to a spot where we can agree and move on. Wasn't having it. Wasn't having it. I'm like, I just don't agree with you. I'm like, no, you're missing my point. No, I just don't agree with you. I'm like, oh, okay, well then thanks for coming on here and doing nothing but help aid the problem that we have right now. So yeah, it's been tough.
And for years, you always you even had me make a meme. Context is everything. Like nobody wants to read context. They just see the headline and she's definitely transphobe. She's definitely this. She's definitely that. And it's like, and me, like I said, going back to being a fan for so long, she's one of the first celebrities that engaged her fans the way she does, and very humble, very loving, and even recently. I think you guys, it was on the Drunk 3PO's video. Yeah. And thank you, Drunk 3PO, for, standing your ground and on stuff with her. Yep. But a father put out a tweet about his daughter being bullied and, tagged Mark Hamill and Gina and, how can I help? And she was quick to, help out and, about bullying and fighting, dealing with bullies and stuff. But I kind of want to fast forward basically to... Madison, your initial feelings. I know we heard on your show, but if you could let our listeners know. Go ahead. Yeah.
Before we go there, how did you have some kind of a relationship with Gina? Am I right with that?
Yes.
Okay, and then how did that develop? I was curious about that because Joe brought it up, and I'm like, okay, and how did that develop? Because I think it might be very important, another indicator of what type of person she is in establishing a friendship with you.
Well, it was shortly after I got canceled. I met Emily Locke, she actually, I believe, met Gina first and began interacting with Gina first. And Emily started this Mandalorian watch party group on Twitter, where a small group of people would get together and watch The Mandalorian together each Friday when it aired. And she actually reached out to me and said, "Hey, you're welcome to join our group if you're interested." And what's funny is I was like, I was so down on people at the time. I was just like, ugh, I just lost all these friends. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready for this right now, but I did it. And I have no regrets. I've met the most wonderful people in that group. And there are conservatives in that group and there are Democrats in that group. I mean, we don't have all the same political ideology or religious beliefs or any of that. We're a very diverse group of people.
And that's Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's
supposed to be. Yeah.
That's how it's supposed to be. And yeah, Gina, I mean, she took notice. She actually has talked to us. It's just really cool that she was willing to reach out to a group of fans like that and call us her friends. It's kind of mind-boggling, honestly, but she's an amazing person. And I mean, I haven't known her that long. I've known her a couple months or so. But she is nothing that these people say she is. Oh, yeah. She's not transphobic. Yeah. She's not racist. She's none of this. It's totally made up.
Oh no, and that is the one thing. If I've been trying to bring that up with people in any way I can. A lot of it has been through my personal Instagram, posting post after post in support of her, and trying to get people to look at what the core of what she's talking about. Don't look at what that guy said or this person is saying she is. Look at what the core of the message is. And even coming to the one that got her fired, that post, I saw it in the morning. And I went, she's spot on. And for anybody who doesn't know what the post was, it was basically her reposting another post that equated, that warned people, hey, it wasn't Nazis who did that. It was that began that it was the own people basically degrading and making people others that made it easier for the Nazis to come in and take and do what they did, that horrible thing. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, she's talking about groupthink and be careful being individual, like she always has been. Everything she ever posted, be yourself, be strong, be yourself, and be confident in yourself over and over and over again. And then everything went down after that, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Are you literally telling me that she post something warning about groupthink, and then the groupthink comes for her and fires her.
Really, the irony was off the charts.
Oh, I know.
Michelle just proved her point.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. I kind of threw my hands up at that moment when, like, and you guys, for everyone who hates her, quote unquote, because I don't think they really hate her, they don't know her, and if you could get off of your high horse or whatever your mind is, maybe if you took a minute to really look at what the core message, maybe none of it would have happened, but. You know, unfortunately, we live in a society right now where people don't want to do that. They're the gotcha, we're coming for your scalp, versus actually talking.
Which, go ahead, sorry, go ahead. Continue.
I was just going to say, I have no idea where you guys stand on the political spectrum, but as a conservative, over the years, I've had to, like, it's something I have to do all the time because most of Hollywood, like probably 90% of Hollywood at least, is very left wing. Mm-hmm. So my whole life I've been used to every actor that I admire pretty much or look up to or like in their movies or whatever, they're the complete opposite of me. And that's totally fine. I separate their characters from who they are personally. Yep. And I'm very used to having to do that. But these people on Twitter, the leftists, whatever you want to call them, these people in the groupthink, they aren't used to having to separate a person from their character, and they could not do that with her. They equated her with Carr, and they couldn't separate it, and they're like, okay, we need to get rid of her because we disagree with her. And I was like, you guys never had to learn that lesson, did you?
Yeah, and the funny part is I always bring up my example of that because I think the same way. My favorite Marvel character, Captain America. Love Chris Evans, love his portrayal of that character. I was only a tacit Cap fan until the movies came out. And then till this day, all the Marvel IP we have, my favorite, Winter Soldier. Above Endgame, above any other one. And I love that character because thank you. And everything that happened in that movie, I'm like, what a great, and then how he did in his loyalty and for Bucky and like the whole thing, I'm like, oh, I love this guy. Then look at his political leanings. I'm like, I totally disagree with you, for the most part. And then same with Mark Hamill. Luke. Oh, but Mark, I disagree with you. But Mark is a human. Luke is a fictional character. Gina Carano is a human. Cara Dune, fictional character. And you're right. A lot of people could not separate. And I even in our discussion with the Mando show, or the other co-hosts, I made the one comment in there because we're discussing, more arguing really, back and forth on whether or not to cover the topic. And I said, I think it's sad that we live in a society where people cannot separate fictional characters from human beings. And I left it there. Because that is where we are. And you're 100% correct that we, as people who are not left-leaning, because I'm not, I don't consider myself a conservative. I'm more of a libertarian, like classical libertarian. Don't mess with me. I won't mess with you. You live in your way. I'm going to live in mine. And I got no beef. And I try to live my life entirely through that. So looking at an actor or a singer or a band or whatever, it doesn't matter to me your political leanings. If I align with them, maybe I connect a little bit better. But if I like your music or your acting or your movies or your producing or whatever, that's all I care about.
Yeah, there's not really nothing I can add to that. That was spot on. I'm really in the middle with a little bit more conservative side just because of my upbringing. But I mean, like I always tell everybody, is just don't be a jerk, be kind, and you know. But we especially in the Star Wars community, it's like we get into these you know, we get so emotional or tied to these characters because we're entertained, and it's really sad these days how much of a double standard right now that Lucasfilm has really displayed, especially in the last couple months, because like we mentioned on our show before this happened, we're like, we keep bringing up, and this was the show after the last We Love Cara Dune Saturday on social media. We kind of brought it up that we keep mentioning it because on this show that we talk about every week and that we love, one of our actors is getting attacked. If it was Pedro getting attacked, we'd be as vocal. But then, you know, as big of a fan of it as I am, and I think we both are, of him, just a double standard, especially with the same, similar to the Nazi tweet, that he's very vocal, but it's okay because it's left side views. And same thing with Mark Ruffalo. I love him as an actor, and he's even way more than Chris Evans on that side than me. But it's really sad to see that double standard.
You know what I do when I see Pedro's tweets and I don't agree with them? I just keep scrolling. What a novel idea!
Wow,
I know, right?
How do you do that?
Yeah, how do you
do you scroll up or down? Because that makes
and then I bring this up. It's a little bit more deeper cut for me for Pedro because he's Chilean. My heritage, my family immigrated from Chile, so he's like my native countryman, and I hear him, and I love his acting. I love it. Well, maybe Wonder Woman, he was a good in, but I'm not going to go there. But overall, he's amazing. And then I see his political points of view, and I go, well, I can let that go. I can let it go. And I want people. I think maybe we should do it as a joke, like. And when you find a tweet or a Instagram post you don't agree with, do this. Scroll. Keep on going on.
You mean don't block and hate?
Don't block,
retweet?
hate, and we need to cancel them.
But kind of stick it. I'm just so. And you brought it up too on your show, but just the double standard, not just with Pedro, but with if you can help me with her name, but the girl that does the High Republic
Christina
show.
Ariel.
Yeah,
Christina Ariel.
Good grief! I mean, I get it, but I mean, I don't get it. But it's like I don't want to get like on a racism tangent. But it's like when is racism not racism? And it's like I feel like Lucasfilm just kind of showed us when, and it's just
that was rough for me to watch, and then watch how they came and supported her. I'm like, well, good, but maybe make it a blanket and make sure you support everybody. If you're going to do one, wouldn't it be right and fair to do everybody the same way? Like, hey, disassociate yourself, and we're talking about a fictional character. Again, I feel like why do I need to keep on coming back to fictional character, everybody? We're here for enjoyment and fun, okay? Stop bringing the real world, political, whatever, social commentary into Star Wars. There are vehicles for that. This isn't one. But you continue to bring your own personal, real-world things into something that we should be unifying, but you're coming through here and running a knife through it and trying to divide everybody up.
I think it would have been a totally different story if they had defended her and defended Gina. It was the fact that they were totally silent on Gina until now, of course.
Yep. And
then voiced their support for Christina that was like, oh, so you're supporting this side, but not this side.
Yep.
And, so many people have been saying, like, Gina signed a contract. You can't speak out about your political beliefs and all that kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, I could understand that, except for the fact that Pedro Pascal makes political tweets all the time. Like, all of these actors are allowed to say, and people at Lucasfilm are allowed to say whatever they want. And it's allowed. They don't get fired. They don't get, slapped on the wrist for it. It's totally fine as long as you're coming from a certain point of view. But because she was different from them and she was on the other side, that there was a complete double standard there, and she's the only one who gets punished for it. So I understand the don't speak out thing if you treat everyone equally, or if you're going to support people, like if the Star Wars account is going to come out and voice support all of them. Don't just support one side, because they've sent a very clear message about who they want in their fandom right now and who they don't want in their fandom, and I think that's a really bad move, honestly.
Well, and yeah. I agree completely, and I don't know. So here's one thing. I had a conversation with someone about that, and I brought up those very specific points like you did. Like, hey, if you're going to support one, isn't it correct that you support all your actors? And if Gina's going to be held to the standard of don't bring up your political beliefs, and even her beliefs aren't political. That's what drives me crazy. But don't bring them up. Okay, if she agrees with that, then that is on her. But then to watch other people – do the same, again, like Pedro and her, and then not get punished. And then I brought up that same point, and the person I was talking to me looked me dead in the face. Well, that is Disney, and if they want to do it that way, they can. And I kind of went, really? So and then I brought up the other one, the producer who wanted to put MAGA kids in a wood chipper, and I went, "Are you out of your mind? You're okay with that?" And then Gina going, "Hey, don't be like German, 1940s Germans that let the Jewish Holocaust happen, and then you're going to go after her for that." And for him to look me dead in the face and go, "Yeah, that's fine," because I lean and I agree with that, because I agree with their left-leaning point of view. I went, "Holy crap! Where are we? That double standard, and not only double standard, but you're okay with the double." It made me pause, and it made me think about a lot of things, and I don't know where we're going to go from here, but I agree. I think it was a bad move for Lucasfilm to do this. I think we had nothing but blue skies coming with all the projects that have been announced. I mean, think about everything that they were talking about bringing on. And now how many people are like, "I don't want anything to do with it anymore"? How many people? You were vocal in your opinion of that, and you're saying, "I'm done." And how many people who don't have a platform like you are thinking the same way? How many? I don't know. We don't know.
And you brought up too also, I think we're on the same page, but you decided not to cancel your Disney Plus like a lot of people have been, right? Or have you changed your mind?
I have not. No, I haven't canceled it.
Yeah, either have I. I counted that as, well, I totally understand, why give Disney and Lucasfilm my money. To me, it's the same thing. She got canceled, so I'm canceled. It's the same cancel culture. Just I totally get it though, but it's like, yeah, I thought I felt like it felt weird to say that you took a stand to not cancel Disney Plus though,
and then you're going to cancel it, yeah.
But no, I think it. Oh no, good.
Yeah, no, and so what was your thought process in not wanting to cancel? Because I know a lot of people will then turn and be critical, and go, because I've been asked by a couple people like, "Did you cancel your Disney Plus?" And I went, "No," and they kind of looked at me like, "Well, why?" So I want to know what your thought process of why you didn't do that.
First of all, I've seen the comparison of canceling Disney Plus, like when the hashtag trended that night when it was announced that she was fired. To cancel Disney Plus was like the #1 trending thing, and a lot of people were out there comparing it to cancel culture. Like canceling Disney Plus is the same thing as cancel culture, and I don't think that's the case, because this is a corporation. Mm-hmm. This is the biggest corporation there is, multi-billion-dollar company. We are their consumers, and we are allowed to decide what content we want to consume. If we want to take our business elsewhere, that's not cancel culture. That's me saying, "Well, you hate people like me, so I think I'm going to go watch something else."
True.
Everyone's allowed to do that. The reason why I haven't canceled my Disney Plus is, quite frankly, because I guess I'm a little bit of a hypocrite. I want to cancel my Disney Plus. I would love to cancel my Disney Plus, but I'm not, because even though I have decided, at least for a while, to boycott Star Wars until they change their mind and decide that Star Wars is for everybody like it should be, I feel like I need to spend my money elsewhere for a while. But I'm also a very big Marvel fan, and so I want to have stuff to watch. I want to have stuff to enjoy, and not that there's plenty of things outside of Disney that I watch and enjoy, but Star Wars and Marvel have been the two biggest things that I've been enjoying for years. I was like, you know what? I'm going to stick with Marvel a little bit longer and keep watching these new series they have coming. If Marvel does something like what Lucasfilm just did, then I guess I'm going to have to boycott them too. But they haven't yet. Yeah.
Well,
I'm going to stick with them a bit longer.
Yeah, I told Udi the same thing, because we're at a local place over here, and we kind of brought up like the canceling Disney Plus. I'm like, they just added the original Muppets. I can't cancel now. In the classic Disney. But I you know what you just said, though, I totally agree with you. It's, even though I said I'd be giving in to cancel culture if I canceled it, you're right, because it's different when you're giving them your money and it's a corporation. But I totally agree with what you said, and I have faith, hopefully, and this is only because I've seen. I think a lot of the fans, the Star Wars fans, the hateful trolls that are out there. I'd love to believe. I'm a very big optimist. Mm-hmm. I'd like to believe that most of them aren't even true Star Wars fans. Mm-hmm. And the example is when I was at Celebration in Chicago, a lot of people were wondering, like, "Ooh, when Kathleen Kennedy comes out, she's going to get booed," or when Kelly Marie Tran comes out, she's going to get booed. She got one of the biggest ovations next to Ahmed Best mm-hmm. during the whole convention. I'm like, so like these places give me hope that Star Wars fans will finally kind of like, I don't want to say bring the positivity back, but like we'll finally flush out these just haters that are just trying to cancel people. Because one thing I saw trending right after Gina was let go was Rosario's next, and I'm like, oh God, come on, it's just.
And going off of the thought process, and I've made the comment multiple times, like, if you are really a Star Wars fan, you don't engage in this. You do not. You look at what it is about, and it's about hope. The entire IP of Star Wars has always been about hope. Same thing about, Favreau. Hey, what's about? Hope. And when you have these people doing what they did, to me, I'm like, then you're not really a Star Wars fan. I question your true feelings for the franchise because you are not being hopeful. You are not being optimistic. You are not looking at the Empire, the evil, the tyranny, and going, we need to get them. And we need to remove that from our world. You are in turn actually acting like them and trying to go after these people. And and for me, that if you can't make that equation in your head and connect that dot, I'm like, then are you really here and really connecting with what it is about?
I hope that a lot of people really start looking at what's happening and pay attention, because bringing Rosario Dawson up, like they all tried to cancel her when she got cast as Ahsoka mm-hmm. for, again, probably false allegations. The plaintiff dropped the case.
Yeah.
Does that tell you?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yet they act like it's a proven thing that she did this. Even though if you just look a little under the surface, you're like, not a lot of credibility to this. But it's this, like, accusation equals truth at this point. Yep. It's like with what happened with Adam Driver a couple of weeks ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. So someone accused him, must be true. Nope, turns out, no, it's not. And everybody jumped the gun, mm-hmm. and then they would not apologize afterwards. They would not admit that they were wrong. Yep. They made all kinds of excuses. Mm-hmm. I think a lot of people woke up after that. A lot of Adam fans who didn't go along with it, they were like, well, this person over here, like, they're starting to notice how there's kind of no end to it.
Yeah.
The cancel culture.
Yeah.
It's just a never-ending hole. It will just keep going.
Yeah.
And they're starting to cancel each other. Mm-hmm. It's not just people on the opposite side of them anymore. They're starting to, they kind of just self-devour. Yeah. It's not an ideology that can last.
No. So
I think, I hope it'll start kind of self-imploding within the next few years, and we'll have kind of a movement against that, because I think a lot of people are starting to realize how ridiculous it is.
No, I agree, and I had a thought in my head, but I forgot. So go ahead.
Well, I will go right off of what you're saying. That I think having very frank, open discussions like this one we're having right now is one way that we can help move that along. And the only thing that I would have wanted to do to add to the conversation would have had somebody who was full on board with her getting fired. Because everyone I've talked to that are either mad, or if they're air quote okay with it, they kind of, but they're not happy. You know what I mean? They're like, nobody won here, And that has been my overall feeling. I'm like, even if you say she did it to herself, or you have that mentality, at the end of the day, who won here? Nobody won. The fans didn't win.
The fans definitely lost.
The fans have lost, hands down. So that is where I think, I hope, and I think you're right, that the fans, the real fans are going to start going, look, we're losing what we love for what? And they're the backlash with this, I think maybe I'm being hopeful, go figure, but maybe I'm being hopeful that this could be the beginning of the turn where we start bringing it back, going, look, we can't keep on doing this. We love these characters, we love the franchise, we love the core of what the series has always been, or the IP has always been, and we cannot continue down this road. So I'm very, very hopeful.
So many people have been saying, like, Star Wars has always been political. And I'm like, you're right. George Lucas is a very political person, but the genius of Star Wars from the OT all the way through the prequels, at the very least, it's very political, but right-wingers could enjoy it. Left-wingers could enjoy it. Everybody enjoyed it.
Exactly.
That's the genius of it, is that a conservative can look at it and see the narrative one way and, this parallels this.
Yeah.
But then a more left-wing person can look at it and interpret it a completely different way and say, this equals this.
Yeah.
It's totally up to interpretation, and that was what was so amazing about it. But now it's kind of, I don't know this, but I'm just seeing what the moves that they're making, and I'm wondering if Star Wars is going to start taking a more obvious stance on things.
Well, I could make the argument they did that already with The Last Jedi, but I'm not going to go into that. I've already made my feelings well known on to everybody how I feel about that film. But I hope, again, that they realize that it isn't good for their franchise. I had hope at one point when the whole thing with canceling Gina began, and it looked like Disney or Lucasfilm was growing a backbone. And I felt like, hey, maybe they're picking up on it. Maybe they're realizing that the true fans love that character and they don't care. That they're not going to get all crazy. And then this happened. So I was taken aback a bit, and I was pretty sad that they made that. So I made that decision. So I hope we turn the corner here.
Yeah, I wasn't necessarily surprised. I kind of expected it, but I was disappointed that they proved me right.
Mm-hmm.
I was kind of afraid they would cave because the mob was so loud and they just kept doing the hashtag and kept doing the hashtag. I was like, they're going to cave. I just could kind of feel it coming, But I hoped they wouldn't, because I wondered, Jon Favreau literally had her in mind when he was developing this character. He wanted her... he wanted her for that character. He didn't even consider anybody else. So I hoped that Jon Favreau would have enough of a backbone to stand up for her and say, no, we're not going to fire her over this. I thought better of Dave Filoni. I was wrong.
Well, here's the thing is, do you know if they've been pretty quiet? At least I haven't read anything about how much they had to do that. And if that could have been above them and they could have argued, I don't know. And I don't know if you've heard that. Maybe they did fight and argue for her. But yeah, that being said, I would hope that they fought for her.
I think right now, I don't say they were...
I don't know anything about that. But
yeah, and I would just assume...
I hope they did.
Yeah, me too, because I would think they've been... Because Carl Weathers has been open about loving to work with her, and he's been kind of quiet. Yeah. I'm thinking they've been kind of told to be quiet for now. But what were you saying about Favreau... pretty much designing the character based on Carano after seeing Haywire. Even when he's showing Pedro the sketches, Pedro's like, oh, that's Gina Carano. I mean, without even knowing she was cast. So it's like, it's just so sad. But, and we're talking about the hashtag, is like, after she was let go. And I think, like I said, the verbiage that was used, I feel like they're saying that, like, where they can paint themselves like, well, if we bring her back, we never fired her. She was, just so they can save grace on themselves. But everything kind of posted about the fire Gina Carano hashtag, but it's like, it seemed like that. I mean, I know that the We Love Cara Dune hashtag was trending worldwide pretty high, and it's just like that never got mentioned in some of the articles I read, and which was pretty sad because I mean that was such a. I was working that day that it hit, but man, I mean, you know, I was retweeting your tweets and Emily's tweets, and big kudos to Ashley, the gentleman that put it on, got that going, and even
Yes.
I mean Gina kind of you know feeling the love for it. I mean that was it was huge. So and I thank all that from because that got me and you kind of talking a little bit more, and like I said. I talked back and forth with Emily. I forget her last name right now. Sorry, Emily, if you're listening. But no, but how everybody, Cara Dune support. We're the deputies. Got to find us. Support our marshal here, and
right.
I'm not going to stop. I know you're not going to stop, and I'm sure you're not. I know you're not going to stop. So,
No.
Well, okay.
and you don't have to worry about losing us as
lot
friends
of-
here.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Good.
Yeah.
I was just going to say there was a lot of press about the We Love Cara Dune hashtag. There were a lot of articles written, and it was annoying that a lot of them covered it from a negative slant.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we've got a really positive movement going on here, and
Yeah.
then they would make the article all negative because, her controversial tweets, and she tweeted this and this and this, and it's like, okay, but that's not about what we're doing here.
Exactly.
And they would have to put their negative on it, and so I appreciated the few outlets who covered it positively. Thank you.
Yeah, but that is journalism today. Yeah, I'm not gonna go on that tangent, but I've often walked into a room and been like, so I'm watching opinion pieces right now on the news coverage. Like, no, it's the news. I'm like, no. Here, let me point out the word. That is an opinion. That is an opinion. That is an opinion. So all this is an opinion. It isn't factual based. Thank you. I'm going to leave. I do it all the time. Like, I'm walking out because this is an opinion, not news, not factual only news. Like, I feel like Joe Friday. Just the facts, man. Just the facts. And I never get that anymore. We don't get it anymore. So, yeah, even with that, you have a positive movement of, like, we support her. We're bringing people from across the globe to support the character and support the actor. And they're going to make it negative because you don't like her. And why don't you like her? Because of a slight against who? Against you? It drives me crazy. But anyway, the other question I have for you is going to be if, and this is going to go hypothetical, do you think that they will recast her? For Cara Dune, do you think they'll recast?
I've been thinking about that, and I'm like, are they going to recast? Are they going to, like, kill her off? Like, say, oh, she died or whatever, like, that happened off screen or whatever?
Yeah.
I have no clue. I have no clue what they're going to do. I feel like there's no good option for them in this. They've already stepped in it.
Yeah.
But I think either just writing her out, is probably the best way to go, because that's just going to be kicking the hornet's nest. I feel like if they recast and try to just move on with things, like, I feel like that's the worst move they could do.
So I'm going to go negative and go like, so that's probably what they're going to do. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, no, that was my thought. I'm like, there's no way you can recast a character, because I remember even during the heat of the controversy, and I'm air quoting controversy, they were like, oh, we love the character, we hate the actor. I'm like, okay, so you're gonna tell me you're gonna recast? Is that gonna work? How often has that worked in any franchise of this magnitude where a recast works? I'll wait, because it's not the same. It may come close, and I can get real close to it, but not the same thing.
I can only think of one, but it's very, like you said, it's very tough to find that.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
So what I hope, and going off what Joey was saying, that they left the verbiage, she is no longer employed and we don't have plans to hire her. To me, I went, so what you did is you cut her out, but you're going to make it where you're leaving the back door open just in case. That's the way I took it. Like, you probably should have never fired her, but you're not trying to play both sides of the thing, because by saying we have no plans at this time to hire her back, and I'm like, well, cake and eat it too, apparently.
Yeah.
Because that is how I took that statement. And then they have to go back and defend, like, oh, her posts were abhorrent. And I'm like, okay. So, I don't know. I kind of feel like, or I'm maybe being hopeful, that they're going to leave the door open, like, we can bring her back. We can bring her back. Maybe they'll let
if she wants to come back.
And now with the deal she has, she may not.
I think it was kind of the whole thing was weird because it was like a Lucasfilm spokesperson said, and it was like, who?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They very specifically did not name anyone because I don't think they wanted upset fans to be able to blame anyone in particular. They're like, oh, was it Kathy? Was it Dave and John? Was it like higher up Disney CEO? What was it?
Yeah.
We don't know. And I think they did that intentionally because they want as little flack from this as possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why I think they worded it so weirdly. But
Yeah.
I don't think they have any intention of trying to rehire her. I would be shocked. I would be shocked because it seems to me they've been waiting to do this, I think.
Yeah, and I even jokingly
They've just been
said
waiting for the right tweet.
Oh, exactly. And I even jokingly said, "Oh, it's the big people that are really trying to plug the High Republic, and they're mad that nobody's liking that so far." But that was just a dumb opinion.
Yeah.
But a lot of people were wondering because I mean, obviously, the day it hit, it literally was like that the oxygen was taken out of me while I was working, and I'm reading, your tweets and everybody's on Twitter and all the supporters that we met through the hashtag We Love Cara Dune, still do. And so a lot of people are wondering, hope she's okay. And I almost like tweeted like, the light's darkest before the dawn. Then we wake up Saturday morning, Gina tweeting or posting on Instagram that we find out that going back to hope and optimism, she lands her dream project producing and acting with Ben Shapiro, which is funny because I saw this meme that came out and it had her with the little 8-bit sunglasses. And the meme read, gets accused for being anti-Semitic,
right,
hired by Orthodox Jew that's winning or something like that. But but I mean, so a lot obviously. So she was so quick to jump, like, hey, I'm okay and I'm doing this now. So in typical Gina fashion, basically. I mean, so what did you think when you woke up and saw her just like, hey, look at what I'm doing now? I mean,
I cheered and I did a little happy dance. That's what I did. I was like, go her.
Yeah.
Like on to bigger, brighter things, like getting to make her own movie now. Like, go her.
Yeah.
She's going to shine brighter than before. I think she's just going to achieve so many things and empower a lot of people. She's already empowering and inspiring so many people to speak up that weren't before. Like, a lot of people do want to speak out and they don't because they're scared and they feel like surrounded by people who disagree and who would bully them if they said anything, and so they don't. But when they see a high-profile individual, sometimes you just need a celebrity to speak out. That's just how a lot of people are. Yeah. When they see a high-profile individual speaking out and making waves, they're like, hey, I can do that too, and they get inspired. So, yeah, I can't wait to see what she does.
Yeah, and especially now, like, you would assume after that news and just being that, Gina Carano fired was trending around the world and people were like, throwing out their piece and stuff. But then you'd think that, I think people expected her to be curled up in a corner in her house, crying.
What am I going to do?
No,
what am I gonna,
she had business going. She showed to the people that weren't believers. A lot of us were like, oh, of course she has something popped up right away because that's who she is. She is a fighter, and she's not getting the Chumbawamba get knocked down, gets up again. Yeah, she's a true fighter, and she's proven it to people. And just the inspiration of such a big knockdown of being let go by Lucasfilm, but now the way it was worded that she's like, I now have my dream project. I am freer to even more before now.
Than before, yeah.
So I'm excited. I can't wait to see what she's doing.
It was just great because so many people were like, make sure she never works again. And then next
we
morning,
canceled her.
Ta-da! Gina Carano is uncanceled.
Exactly.
Well, and that is the ultimate, I think, finger getting pointed at these people. Like, look, you have spent months going after a person that you disagree with.
And don't know. For accused slights against you or people you know or however. And yet, all that anger and hate driven at a person, and she took it and kind of just did a little brush off the shoulder and went, and I'm still going. So I think some people have made the argument that it's going to let a lot of people down what she did, and I'm air quoting what she did and how it got her to get fired, and what are they going to do now? And I went, hold on, and in my mind I'm thinking, no, look at what her as an individual is doing, and that is her inspiration. Constantly, we are knocked down in life. We've all been through tough times, and I always have said I'm a true believer, like, it doesn't matter if you get knocked down, it's getting back up and figuring out what you're going to do. And look at her. I mean, so if you want inspiration and you think, oh, because she got fired or whatever, and it's going to let people down, I'm going to counter quite quickly and go like, no, look at what she did do. Mm-hmm. She got knocked down, got right back up, and is not only going, I'm going to survive, but no, I'm going to do better. And I don't know how much more inspiration you need from a person living their life. And so when I read that, I did like you. I'm like, yeah, I gave a little fist pump in there. I'm like, atta-way. Atta-way. I love it. And, and for me, Ben Shapiro, I don't follow Ben Shapiro. I know he's like the leading conservative voice on Facebook. Like I said, I'm more libertarian leaning, so I kind of like float around everywhere. But I went, good on you. I mean, good on you, Ben. Good on you that you look at and can look through the haze of all that and go, no, look at what this person is, and give them the opportunity. So I'm very happy. I'm way excited. I'm like now waiting. Like, okay, what are you doing? What's the story? When are we? What do you need? I'm like, hey, casting for extras.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, I worked on a small budget film. Do you need? I'll come. I'll throw you my resume. I'll come work for you. And I'm very, very excited. And again, she proved again what she's really all about. And I love it because for me, I'm very much a stick it to the man kind of guy. And that's basically what she did. And I'm like, thank God. And just reinforced my love of Gina Carano. And from a 24-hour window went from, to yeah, just like that.
And one of my favorite movie quotes, and she pretty much just showed the true example of it, is from one of the later Rocky movies, but when he's telling his son that, like, it doesn't matter how much you get knocked down, but it's a matter, or in the fight, it's the thing that's important is if you keep pulling yourself up. Mm-hmm. I said it wrong because I haven't seen that movie in a while, but she showed. I mean, to me, as a Star Wars fan, a lifelong Star Wars fan, being let go from like a Star Wars project, especially as amazing as a Mandalorian, I'd be done. I mean, like, you know what? I'm done. I mean, I wouldn't, I wouldn't say I'd jump off a cliff or anything, but pretty dang close.
You'd go into your bed and guy.
I'd be in the corner crying like a little puppy. But man, and the fact that she did that the next freaking day, I mean, come on,
iconic.
Exactly.
Really.
And you said it perfectly.
What I want to say is that she's setting a great example because, like, I don't want to guilt trip anybody, like, because I'm keeping my Disney Plus for now. I'm going to keep enjoying some Disney content, so don't feel bad if you're out there and you still want to keep watching.
I am.
Disney. That's fine. If you're canceling your Disney Plus, that's also cool. Like, I got you. I completely understand. Yeah. But I think the most important thing going forward is creating our own content. Mm-hmm. That's more important than anything because these big corporations, they think they own entertainment. Mm-hmm. Disney bought Marvel. It bought Lucasfilm. It's very obvious what Disney is doing. They're trying to buy up the biggest franchises so they can basically have a monopoly on entertainment.
Yes.
And you don't want any competition. They don't really have any competition right now.
Nope, not anymore.
And so what people need to do is start writing their own novels, their own movie scripts, make them into movies. direct your own stories, make your own art. That's what people have to start doing, and give them some competition and give them a run for their money, because otherwise they have a monopoly on not just entertainment, but thought and kind of the stories that are being put out into the world. And they are clearly only putting out kind of one viewpoint right now.
Yes.
So if you're any free-thinking person, whether you're conservative or liberal or anything in between, you need to start making your own content and diversifying entertainment, because they talk about diversity all the time, but they don't really mean it.
No.
Let's put real diversity out there in entertainment. That's what I hope happens.
Yeah, exactly. Well said.
Yeah, and I agree, and I am constantly advocating for diversity of thought. True diversity is diversity of thought. It doesn't matter where you came from, what color you are, how you identify. To me, none of those things would alter my point of view of you. They don't. Your thought, how you act with your family, your friends, people you don't know, those are more important. And then being able to look at different ideas and accept different ideas and be critical and not try to go after people who think differently, that is diversity in my mind. So you're absolutely right. True diversity comes from the brain, not from a plaque or a box or a button that you push or a check mark you check off. True diversity comes from your brain and how you think. So you're right. The more diverse people we have that we don't care about any of the exteriors that are present, but more about how you feel, how you think, and what kind of human you are. How can we not be better? So if we can all start coming from that point of view, can you imagine what kind of content that can be made with that kind of thought process? I mean, I think before is one of the reasons why we got Star Wars in the first place. You think about this kind of culture didn't exist back then, and look at what we got. And like you said earlier, it has the ability to bridge the gap of different thought process, and everybody can take what they can take from it in a positive point of view. So I think you're right. I hope more people now are starting to get lit, getting a fire lit underneath them to go like, I need to move. And really, I think we're on the precipice. We can be hopeful again that we're maybe on the precipice of moving in a positive direction, even though we're coming out of a very negative thing.
I agree with all of that. And I think people can take a lot of inspiration from George Lucas. I mean, speaking of the original Star Wars, it almost didn't get made.
Yeah.
The big studios were like, we don't want to do this. And he just...
Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
You're good. All these big studios didn't really want to touch that, but he was like, I'm going to make this movie, and he went out and did it. He made it happen. So that's what we got to do.
Yeah, and that, I mean, the way I look at it, if you consider yourself a Star Wars fan, that is where you're going to find inspiration. Look at George. Look at what he did. He did so many things. A lot of people don't even know that the whole having the opening scroll, he couldn't do that. He had to fight to get that for that to happen, because the movie, the MPAA was like, no, you need to have credits at the beginning, and that's why if you look before then, every movie had the credits at the beginning. His was the first, like, no, I'm not going to open my movie that way. You're not going to get it, man. He fought for that. All these little things, and it's from a true trailblazer thinking, I'm going to think outside of the box, and not only think outside of the box, but destroy the box as I'm plowing through the box and making sure everybody else goes, hey, I breached the gap, come on through. And that is why I'm torn so hard with what's going on with Star Wars right now, knowing the root of where it is. I'm like, man, you guys are not anywhere near where we began. So it's rough. It's really rough.
Yeah. I agree. I'm a man of few words.
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. We don't know what to say. We're just kind of, as a lifelong Star Wars fan, I'm just kind of sitting here going, there's going to be a little Star Wars shaped hole in my heart because I'm just used to always having new Star Wars to consume and enjoy, and it's going to be hard. Like, I'm not going to lie, it's going to be hard for me not to watch new Star Wars when it comes out.
Yeah, Bad Batch is next. I mean,
yeah. Like, I got the show I've been wanting for years. I finally got a Boba Fett show. It's like, what do I do now? You know, it's hard.
Oh, yeah.
Well, like, you want to be like Anakin and go, it's not fair.
Exactly.
Star Wars fandom is like sand. It's coarse.
Yeah.
It's rough.
Oh, man.
No, and as a long time Star Wars fan, I'll just say, you know, come back. There are the good people out there. Surround yourself with good Star Wars fans. It makes it a lot funner. You know, and luckily that's something we both do. You got us here. We could talk for a long time. I could tell you that because I figure we could probably wrap up this topic because
I've been talking for a minute.
but you did one thing I do want to almost close with. I say almost. I'm sure we'll have a little tangent somewhere. But you mentioned for people to, you know, make their own content, write their own story. You're also a writer, so I kind of you mentioned that, and you do some little side projects. So for some of our friends and listeners that aren't familiar with you and what you're doing, can you let them know some of that and your art? Because we did share one thing I loved is your Gina Carano, the Carano art piece that you did, and it's on my watch.
Love it.
So
it is amazing.
Thank
I just
you.
want to tell you, amazing. I saw it and went, holy bleep, bleep, bleep. That is cool. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so primarily I'm an artist. That's my source of income. So that's what I do. I paint, I draw, I do digital illustrations, commissions. That's mainly what I do. I also sell a lot of prints. I have a store, madisonthames.com. There's my shameless plug. I'm I say I'm an unofficial writer right now because the only thing I've put out into the world is fan fiction, but I'm currently working on my first original novel. And it's actually a few chapters away from being finished, and then I'll be going into the, you know, reviewing and editing and getting it published, all that kind of stuff. Don't know how long that takes because I've never done it before.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'm doing what I'm telling other people to do. I'm making my own original content. I'm going to be putting it out there in the world. So yeah, I hope a lot of other people out there who are listening do the same. Yeah, and like we've kind of brought up a couple of times that you're ending your show doing talking, which if anybody listened to your shows, basically you did doing talking and you did your Mando recap like we do, and I really enjoyed it as a person that does a Mando recap show. It was really, you and your co-host had really good insights and stuff that we had the same insights on some, and other ones I'm like, why didn't we think of that? And because we take pride in having a real Mando on our show.
One of our co-hosts is a 501st and Mando Merc.
Yeah, and
nice.
So that's
nice.
Chad, and he runs the Mando Merc's Facebook.
Yeah.
But so when you said that early in your show, I was like, man. But then you mentioned you're going to focus on your YouTube channel. So can you let us know a little bit about your YouTube? Yeah, so I've totally shifted gears. I started doing reaction videos like within the last couple of episodes of Mando. I was like, why am I not reacting to these? I'm having crazy reactions this season. I'm like screaming, I'm crying, I'm doing all these things. I need to be recording. Your finale show was awesome. I'll tell you that.
I haven't watched that. I got to watch that.
So I started doing that, and then I was like, why don't I react to other things? So right now I'm reacting to WandaVision, and I'm planning to react to, you know, Falcon and Winter Soldier and Loki and all that stuff when it comes out. So, and a lot of other things as well. Like I feel like there's a lot of classic movies I haven't seen. I was like, why don't I react to movies as well? So I'm going to be doing a lot of fun, different stuff. And yeah, reactions is a nice change. I've done podcasting since 2018. And I like that direct connection of video and getting to like watch something with people. They feel like they're watching it with you. I guess I'll give credit to Blind Wave because that's how I started watching reaction videos. I don't watch a lot of reaction channels. They're kind of the only one I watch, but they were what made me go like, hey, this might be fun. Getting to interact with viewers in such a direct way. They're watching stuff with you. They can comment and give feedback on the shows as you're going along. It's just a lot of fun. So yeah, that's the direction I'm going to be heading going forward.
What is the channel?
Doing talking. It's still doing talking,
okay.
but it's not a. I took off the A Star Wars podcast part of it.
Nice. And like I said, I've listened to your podcast and watched. I think I watched your reaction to the Mandalorian finale and the last two WandaVision. So very enjoyable because I've seen some reaction videos and it's like, okay, you watched this video already. I can tell on certain ones. No offense, because people are doing what they're doing. Yeah. It is tough to put out content, so I understand people want to be prepared and look professional, even though if they're scripting their initial reaction sometimes. But yours is genuine, and it's tough. I totally understand that. So
thanks.
And
it's very time consuming because especially when you're doing your own editing like I do, I edit my own reactions and then I have to upload them. And when you do a reaction video that's about 20 something minutes, it takes over an hour about to upload to YouTube. YouTube's pretty slow.
Yeah.
They need to make better on that. But
very cool.
Yeah, it's a very time consuming thing, that's for sure.
But it could be really rewarding. We both understand that. Yeah. So Madison, thank you for joining us. I'm glad over the last couple of months with being fans of Gina Carano, I'll say we're friends now, and I know myself and I'm sure Udi will continue to support what you're doing. Yeah. Happy to shout you out. I do still want a shirt of that Gina shirt. I know you if that ever comes available again. So,
are you talking about the Carano shirt?
Yes. So
those are still up. That's on my storefront here.
Oh, I thought. Yeah. Well, you know what? Okay.
Well, look, I'm grabbing my phone and going to the storefront right now.
So, wish you luck on your new venture, focusing on reactions, and love to talk to you again in the future.
Yeah, I mean, I want to get her on. Like, I feel like I want to find like a place where we can talk more with you. Because I feel like we're only scratching the surface. I don't know what we're going to do, but I definitely want to talk more to you, more with you about all of this. I mean, the WandaVision, sure, all that. I think it would be just a good time to be able to talk about all of this kind of stuff.
Yeah, especially if you need to get your Star Wars fix out and you don't,
Yeah.
So we're here for you.
Yeah, we're here.
I'll make cameos to talk about.
Absolutely. Oh, you know what? You gotta. I say this to a lot of my guests on my podcast, but you got an open door anytime, and we'll talk Star Wars positively.
Yeah, positively. And then, I mean, if we can get, I'm going to find a way to get you onto my other show, LTP. I think you'd be a great conversation and have a good time meeting my other co-hosts, both of my other co-hosts, which are just good people, and we have a good time talking. And I feel like we can relate a ton, and we do relate a ton, and we have a lot in common. I think it'd be a great conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And thanks so much for having me on. This was so much fun. I mean, I know it's kind of a serious topic, and it's not fun what's going on in the Star Wars fandom right now, but this was a great conversation.
Exactly. But like I said before, because I was like, oh, it's going to be such a downer show, but then we just got that good news of her, like, hey, I'm good. I'm doing this now. So, I mean.
Exactly.
It ended on a high note.
Ending.
Exactly. So I'm glad that happened. And, man, it seems like a lot has happened in 2 days.
Right?
Yeah.
So we're going to end in hope, I think, is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
What is it about? What is it? It's hope.
It's hope. But, so thanks for coming on. For our listeners that are used to our different podcasts here, different styles, thank you guys for listening. For new listeners, I know, a lot of people right now have been pretty outspoken in support of Gina. And I know there's even more people that do agree and do love her, but are, I'll say, socially scared to admit it. And it's understandable because it's just a time we live in right now. And if you're a fan of somebody like her and people make you feel like it's the same thing going with a conservative, they make you feel like you're a terrible person, and you're not. I mean, come on. She's a great-hearted person. Mm-hmm. She has this big support for a reason. Mm-hmm. And, we're a safe space here. If you need to talk to us, the three of us, and we'll support Gina with you.
Yeah. And to reiterate or to build on top of that is find the people who you can mesh with and find the commonality. And the political end of it doesn't even need to apply. It is about you believing in the IP and believing in the messaging and believing in the characters and the community. So yeah, I mean, if you feel like you can't talk out or speak out about, in support of Gina right now for whatever reason, there are plenty of us out here who are going to be right here going like, come on over. If you want to have a beer with me, you can. We won't reject you. We support you, and we're here for you.
Well said. So, once again, I want to thank everyone for listening. And again, Madison, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And taking your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Can't wait to do it again.
Yeah, I want to do it soon. It was great.